Hello and welcome to American Wasp. I am your host, Deter McBizness, America's favorite white Anglo-Saxon Protestant gone left coastal. I am joined, as always, on Wednesday afternoons and early evenings East Coast by my main man, Devil's Advocate Productions, also known as Alex. Haha. Getting
What's
started
going
with a grand total of 10 viewers today. Hopefully that number goes up. Usually it goes up when we take over
on?
because I think people appreciate the live content a little bit better than the syndicated. But it's all good. Glad to have interrupted a conversation about Taco Bell. We are
Yeah,
we are gonna we are gonna take you to something a little bit more interesting, which is the elections yesterday in Illinois,
indeed.
as well as the Iran escalation, fatigue from that war, all over the country. And, we might, I'm sure you've got some stuff for us to react to, right?
Of course.
All right. So let's start with the big bad cat. Abigazela last night ends up coming in a few thousand votes short of being able to win the Illinois ninth seat. It's really tragic. I'm going to bring the numbers up here in a second. It's really tragic because Illinois ninth. It's really tragic because if one of the other two major progressives had
Yeah.
dropped out, then she would have had the win. So those were the names. One was Mike Simmons,
Mike
and
Simmons and
another one
Bushara.
was
Bushra.
Bushara Ali Amawala, and she ended
Who,
up,
by the way,
yeah.
APEC started running ads under a different name, of course, trying to say she's the real progressive. That cat is a carpetbagger, not a real progressive. You should vote for Bushra. Trying to split the vote, and it happened. Now, if I'm a progressive running in this race and I start seeing that APAC is paying for ads supporting me, I'm immediately dropping out and endorsing the person with the best numbers. I don't know how elections work there in Illinois. Maybe it was too late to drop out and your name still would have been on the ballot. Maybe I know there's no ranked choice voting. So it's
Well,
not
what
like
they should do is do what they do in California, which is the top two vote getters go to the general, and
mm,
then it's like an open primary. So even the Republicans would be in here as well, which would have encouraged more consolidation of the field. But this
yeah.
is, in my opinion, a failure of the DSA to take the reins of this situation and broker a deal between Bushra, Mike Simmons, and Kat. Probably something along the lines of Simmons and Amawala get a position in Kat's staff,
Yeah.
something like that, if she wins.
Yeah.
But the DSA was the common thread between these three candidates, and they did not step up and broker a deal. And maybe
Matter of
it's
fact, they
not in
endorsed
the.
Mike Simmons
I know, and that
late.
was a mistake, in my opinion. So just looking at the numbers, Cat lost by about 4,400 votes. Simmons brought in 8,600 votes. So even just half of that would have been close to enough.
Yeah.
Bushra brought in 6,200 votes. So, I mean, those two drop out. It's capped by a landslide.
Yeah.
Um, you could, maybe get up to 40% of the vote if you consolidated.
Yeah.
And
Now,
so,
is
yeah,
every single voter guaranteed to not to switch their vote, or would some of
no,
them
but you're
drop
going to
off?
get over half. You're going to get
But
more than half.
you'd get enough to win.
If you
Uh,
got half of what they got in the actual election, she would have won by like 3,000 votes,
yeah.
4,000 votes.
I think the story of this, though, the story that APAC's trying to tell is supporting Israel is good policy. Now, none of the ads they ran were talking about how great Israel is. They were all fake. They were not using the APAC name. They were using fake names that they created shell companies for. And they were trying to split the vote by endorsing Bushra and saying, "Oh my God, you should vote for her to be a president." So their narrative is incorrect. I'm taking the narrative that looking at the vote spread amongst the progressive candidates, there were more people enthusiastically voting for progressives than there were enthusiastically voting for Daniel Biss or Laura Fine. Laura Fine being the one that APAC actually endorsed. Daniel Biss, I watched his acceptance speech. There's some good things in there. I hope he can govern with some of the backbone he had in this primary. We shall see. But I have Cat's concession speech that we can react to. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet? Sure.
Yeah. So, I just want to let people know I made a.
You're a little underwater. Your mic sucks right now for a second.
Oh, my mic sucks. Oh,
there you go. Now it's good.
okay.
Good.
All right. Well, I made a reaction to the new Spider-Man trailer that came out. But anyways, here's Cat's concession speech.
Turn it down a little bit.
Hey everyone, I don't know if you heard, but we didn't win, and it really fucking sucks. We came really close, and it sucks, but something that no one in power even expected would be possible at all. I need to stress to every single person in this room that this does not mean that the last year has been for nothing. Tens of thousands of people powered this campaign, knocking doors, making calls, donating what they could. We fed and clothed thousands of people across the 9th District. We forced our opponents to the left and to be more aggressive against this administration. We did all of this together from the ground up with everything against us.
It's a little superlative.
We had millions in APAC spending, dark money smear campaigns, institutional power, tipping the scales, and we made them use their entire arsenal. Shit we've never even seen before, just to beat us. And that's just for now. We showed that politics can be more than backroom deals and reliance on the ultra-rich. It can be helping others, it can be a community, it can be a team sport. We were able to change the conversation in this district and nationwide. We have done so much that has never been seen before in American politics. And we have set a new standard for what people should expect from those trying to represent them. I am so incredibly proud of what we built together and deeply grateful to every single person who believes in this campaign, especially my staff. I'm not going to go further than that because I will cry, because I love every single one of them so much. Shout out to our staff, please. You better turn it on. I'm so astounded by how many of you that are with us have never been involved with the campaign or maybe never even voted. That's incredible. Whether you came here because you donated a jacket to our mutual aid hub, or because you saw us on a live stream, or because one of our volunteers wouldn't stop calling you. Thank you for being involved. And the work isn't over. There are progressives all over the country who are taking a chance just like we did, and we have to help them win. No matter how hard it is, we have to send a message to this administration and anyone who enables it, and I'm talking directly to them right now. You and your jobs are not safe. This is the start and not the end. We are not tolerating the status quo. You cannot kidnap and kill us and our neighbors. You cannot start illegal wars. You cannot trample on our rights and see our lives as a means for profit. We will continue to come back, and every single loss like this one just makes the path easier for the next person who takes the same chance. We are not done, and I am not going anywhere. What I said When I said I would spend every single waking moment of the rest of my life to hold this administration accountable, win or lose, I fucking meant it. And I know all of you do too. So thank you for supporting us. I'm sorry that this sucks, but fuck Trump, fuck ICE, free Palestine, and I love you all.
Word. All right. So that was a great consensus speech. Look, I've known about Kat for years. Remember following her when she was at Media Matters. I actually got to meet her in 2023 a couple times. Her and Ben and me and my wife went on a couple double dates together. And yeah, when she moved to Chicago, and we still talk a little bit, but I learned through the internet that she was running for Congress. I learned through the internet that Ben Collins helped buy the Onion. When I found out she was running for Congress, in the limited time I knew her, and just seeing how she moved online, my guess was that she's running for Congress to put a bigger spotlight on the issues that she finds important. Yes, of course, she's running to win. She's not running as a Tulsi Gabbard or an Andrew Yang to sell a book or advance her own career and see where she could land. She is running to get these messages into the forefront of the conversation. And yes, to win. Now, she didn't win, but she's going to keep, from what she said here in this concession speech, keep pushing progressive candidates around the country, using what platform that she has, her stream that she set up for the campaign, her Blue Sky account and Instagram account, this operation that she's built in Chicago. Hopefully they keep supporting progressive candidates locally and nationally, and keep using the campaign headquarters at the Mutual Aid Hub. Keep showing as an example. If I were to run a campaign, how would I do it? And she did it exactly the way she left it all on the field, exactly the way she wanted to run it. And again, she mentioned in this, showing that politics can be done differently, that you can use donation money for mutual aid. You can use donation money to actually help people in your community as you're running for office. It doesn't have to go into a slush fund that you later use for private jets and concert tickets. You can run an ethical, moral campaign, and you don't have to be on Twitter. That's another big thing that I remember talking with Pep Talks about. He was criticizing, she's not on Twitter. How would you leave Twitter during the height of your campaign? Because it was the height of the campaign, because she wanted to be an example that you don't have to be on the platform that Elon Musk, the Nazi, owns. You can move somewhere else. You don't have to swim in those waters if you don't want to. And again, she came close. She came close like Nita Alam came close in Carolina or Virginia. If the votes weren't split, she would have won.
I know.
And that's the lesson I'm taking from this campaign.
Yeah. And just to acknowledge the chat here, such a wasted opportunity. I'm so disappointed in the DSA. Let's make sure we don't acknowledge the scenario where the DSA tried to do something and nobody listened and everybody was super stubborn. I did see a video from Mike Figueredo that I recommend you guys all check out about this race, and he showed a clip of Bushra staying in the race, deciding to stay in the race, and even just her dropping out could have maybe been enough. So yeah, it was really cool that she incorporated mutual aid into her campaign and all the things. I don't know. The only thing I maybe would get a little bit more specific with that you said is that she left it all on the field, where I think, I watched her live stream the night before the election, and she had Jamal Bowman and Rashida Tlaib on.
Yeah.
And guess what was more important, vibes or policy?
Yeah.
Vibes.
Yeah.
It was all vibes. There was very little, if any, policy. If they did talk about policy, it was lost on me because I was reacting to it. I took down my reaction because I, didn't want to negatively affect the vote. But like after, like almost right after I posted it. But what do you got these names? You got these big names, and they're just. It was almost like she had kind of been like, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Where I come from, and I think where you come from too, you make the most of every freaking minute all the way until the end. And the way that interview with Rashida Tlaib and then with Jamal Bowman went, I was like, yeah, it's cool that you guys are friends now and you guys are A-listers within progressive circles. That's wonderful for you. But I really want you to win.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was just a little bit of frustrating viewing there. But what are you gonna say?
I didn't see the interview. I remember it happening. I was like, that's cool that she has him on. To me, it was pretty late in the game that Rashida, and then followed quickly by Ilhan Omar, endorsed.
Good point. Yep.
Could have done that a lot earlier.
Yep.
Why wasn't that happening? Why didn't
point.
AOC or Bernie say anything? Why wasn't there rallies in that district?
Well, or you could say, what the criticism that we're offering about the DSA, why didn't Bernie step in and broker a deal?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you got to use your ethos when you're fucking big time. This is what I think. This is one of my concerns about progressive political leaders is they might be good at the campaign. They might be good candidates. They might win office. But once they have power, do they really know what to do with it? Because they've never had it. Yeah. Not in my lifetime. They haven't had it since the 60s.
Yeah.
So my concern is once they get into office, they're going to be just overwhelmed by all of the forces that affect, people's decisions in public office to the point where they make bad decisions and they try to do everything perfectly instead of just doing the best they can on a handful of issues so that they can get reelected and we can establish a foundation of power within our federal government. I mean, I love local politics. I love being involved and being supportive. But in terms of like my genuine interest and my talent, skills, and just competency, I think I'm a way better fit for national politics. I think I understand the American electorate, and I think I understand the different regions of the country a lot better than most people. Like most people out here in California have no concept of the Deep South. Absolutely none. Whereas you guys do back east. They come and visit New York City. You run into a
upstate New York is already deep south enough for me. I think you're right. I think that's an important point to bring up because I talked with Pep last Friday. We had like a 3-hour discussion about this. And something he kept hammering that I kept kind of hand waving because I just didn't have a counter to it was the local district, specifically the district, how the mood is, how they vote, and that Daniel Biss simply has more name recognition, and he's been there longer. He's the mayor of Evanston. He's a mayor. Right. He has the name. She might have been the first one to jump in, even before the person whose seat officially retired. She was going to primary her, Jan Schakowsky, I think.
She's like 80.
Daniel Biss, as soon as he announced, people knew who he was in that district.
Right.
I didn't know who he was, but I'm not
name recognition is huge, man. Fame is not something you can really buy.
Yeah.
And especially
and
the
what
local
you said
fame.
there, we pushed our opponents to the left. Yes, they did. He was courting AIPAC to get money and then backed away because he realized it's toxic.
In his victory speech, he said that he's going to be AIPAC free.
Yeah,
that's what he said in his victory speech. He's like he's pro J Street but anti AIPAC, I guess.
Which let's hope it maintains, and he actually delivers on that in the general and going into Congress. It's a disappointment. We're lefties. We're used to disappointment. But again, I believe that when it was the early results and she was like in third place by a distance, I was like, oh shit. This sucks. Even though getting third place is still pretty all right for someone brand new. Nobody knew her name. She showed up there, and got into third. Fine. But then she started gaining. And then she overtook Laura Fine. So the APAC candidate was on the bottom. And then she got really, really close, within 2 to 4 points of Daniel Biss. And yes, like you said, if Bushra or Simmons had dropped out, or both of them had dropped out and endorsed Kat, maybe she would have won. But I think the fact that you walk away with a silver, and you've been on CNN now, you've been on MSNBC now, you've been on the big talk shows, and you are now a voice that can go on there and be a counter to all the mainstream voices, right? We love when Emma Vigeland or Sam Cedar goes on the mainstream media, but having more than just those two people,
right?
Better, a net benefit, I believe, for the movement as a whole. Now, again, it would have been better if she had won, but if she continues to highlight candidates around the country, if she can get some kind of motion like Hassan has,
like what we were just talking about. Yes, exactly. Influence, popularity, fame, and influence. I hope she gets it. I hope she uses it well. I hope she's not resentful about the DSA not endorsing her, or whatever happened there. I hope she doesn't talk shit about the DSA, because I think the DSA is still the best tool we have.
She actually addressed it on Majority Report. She said, we didn't court their endorsement because we were getting indicted at the same time. Like around the time where you were supposed to court the DSA for endorsements, she was getting indicted and had to do that. That was more important.
They couldn't find time to get together.
I mean, that's again,
with her.
The first campaign, and Pep had problems with how the campaign was run, and I could see that being another issue of how the campaign was run. I mean, hell, the foreign policy conversation that came out of it, that was a huge misstep for a campaign. You never want to get into a foreign policy. Yeah. You don't want your voters going, wait a minute, what's this about Taiwan? You don't want that. You want them just focused on the issues you're talking about.
Yes.
So, it can be done better in the future, and she's learned. Hopefully she's learned. Let's get into some of this Iran shit, some of this racism shit. I just want to bring up this post that I wanted to bring these things up to you specifically. Because you talk a lot about these in your essays. The Pope, during a Vatican conference on Wednesday, he said, he said basically we should have universal health care, right? And of course, all the angry fake Christians are against him and yelling at him for being not a real Christian or whatever. But then I also wanted to bring up this piece, because this is essentially what they're saying. This is Donald Trump talking to Brian Kilmeade, and I played this yesterday, but he said out loud the actual ethos of the Republican Party.
A lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there. So the genetics are not exactly, they're not exactly your genetic.
Jesus.
One of those problems, Brian. It's a terrible thing, and it happens. And it happens too often. So, a lot of
so he straight up just says, they have bad genetics. That's why we don't want them here. Hell, that's why we're at war with Iran. Here's the leader of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt. This fuck, who I forgot to mention, reminds me of Chuck Schumer from the 80s. If you've seen footage of Chuck Schumer from the 80s, he moves, looks, and talks just like this.
Just look at what happened in the days after the U.S. and Israel launched the military operations against Iran. I mean, whatever your views on the conflict might be, and reasonable people can hold very reasonable differences. What happened next was not about policy. It wasn't about geopolitics. It was about blame. And the blame, as it so often does, was placed at the feet of Who else? The Jews.
Jews are not a genetic race. Judaism is a religion. I am half Jewish. I am half Christian. I am half white, half black. Judaism is a fucking religion. I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah, but hold on real quick.
Yeah.
Isn't Ashkenazi an ethnicity?
They are ethnicities because when ethnicities were created and categorized, these still are looking at Judaism as an ethnicity. I would posit it's fucking not, because anybody can be Jewish. You can be Jewish today if you were just like, I'm Jewish now, because it's a fucking idea. Anybody can have an idea and just be like, I'm Christian now. I'm Muslim now. I believe in Thor now. I believe in Buddha now, because why not?
Take.
What would stop you? It's a religion. It's a fucking idea. I did not grow up in any religious, facet. The most we did was I celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas. The end.
Okay, I think, okay, so Judaism is neither a race nor an ethnicity, but I do think Ashkenazi is an ethnicity.
Yes, they are.
Just like there are ethnic Russians, ethnic Poles, and ethnic Germans. Remember, World War II was white man racism, right? The Germans thought that they were racially superior to the Poles, and then they were trying to compete with the Russians, really, is what the end goal was. But, enough of the history lesson. Let's get back into the chief complainer of the Zionist nation.
Yeah, let's see who he brings up, by the way.
Pointed fingers at the Israelis who they claimed whispered a few too many times in President Trump's ear. For the senior senator from Maryland, a state with one of the most large, most active, most observant Jewish populations in America, he blamed AIPAC, which he slandered as un-American.
Good.
Then there's the U.S. congressman who stated that he stands against the, quote, neoconservatives who led the U.S. into the current war. And instead, his words, he's proud to stand with Hassan Piker, one of the most outspoken, toxic, virulent anti-Semitic influencers in the world, who the congressman described as one of the representatives of, quote, a new moral order. Again, his words. Other elected officials fell over themselves to make big, splashy announcements of not taking money from the largest pro-Israel organization in the country, even as they seemingly have no problem taking money from anyone else.
This is fucking anti-Semitic. This is anti-Semitic. Tying Jews and Judaism to Israel, a nation state and a government that is committing a genocide, has increased anti-Semitic people's platforms like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, has increased anti-Semitic hate crimes and attacks, just verbally, physically, whatever. There's been a couple of shootings now recently. It is because your constant conflation of the state of Israel with every Jew on earth. That is anti-Semitic. Jonathan Greenblatt is an anti-Semite.
Wow. And you got that street cred being half Jew and everything. So
I'm telling you. Now, look, fucking Ben Shapiro, Pope of the Jews, would look at me and be like, you're not fucking Jewish.
You're not even wearing a yarmulke. Jew.
I'm a self-hating Jew.
Yeah.
Look, do I hate my mother, who is Jewish? Of course. But I hate her for other reasons other than being Jewish. She sucks as a person. I love lighting the menorah every year. It's something that I bring up, like, hey, I got to find out when Hanukkah starts this year. I like my identity. I like being half Christian, half Jewish, half black, half white. And I separate those out because I don't like when people tell me what I am. People have been trying to tell me for fucking ever. Your father's black, then you're black. Your mother's Jewish, then you're Jewish. Or that these things, or You're like Lenny Kravitz. You're half black, half Jewish. How can I be half Judaism as a fucking religion? I never understood the ethnicity. Now, as an adult, I do understand the ethnicity. Sephardic Jews, Ashkenazi Jews. It's different people, and they're different. The genetic paths of like moving through the world, right? The Ashkenazis are the ones in Europe. The Sephardics are more the ones who stayed in the Middle East. That's the genetic pathway. It's the people who moved this way and interbred along the way so that their features change and their genetics change. That's a genetic group of people, Ashkenazis and Sephardics. Absolutely. But an Ashkenazi person or a Sephardic person can choose not to be Jewish, can choose to be Christian, can choose to be Muslim, can choose to be fucking...
Yeah, I think it's a difference. It's a difference between religious and ethnic diverse identity.
Yeah.
But that's got to be frustrating. I mean, that's got to be tough being like having, all those. I mean, people forget Obama was half white.
Yeah.
He's half white. So, like, people always forget about that. But he is still our first black president. It's usually when you're half white, whatever the rest is, that's what wins. That's what like people identify as. Like, like my skin color is maybe even lighter than yours right now because you're a little red. But I get it, dude. People come up to me, start speaking Spanish, start speaking Arabic. They don't know what I am. It's all over the place. There was a guy who got famous. He was a civil rights attorney, and he got famous for the '92 riots in L.A. And he had a little bit similar complexion to yours. And he said, "I see you can look at me. I'm light, bright, but definitely not white."
Light, bright, but definitely. I'm going to use that. That's great. I love that. But yeah, so we're talking about Iran. We're talking about the racism inherent in the Republican Party. Here's another example of it. Chipmunk face J.D. Vance right here. Speaking about gas prices.
Is that we actually worked with a lot of our allies all over the world who are suffering from this, frankly, more than we are, because unlike the United States, where we've pursued an energy dominance agenda, you've got a lot of people all over the world who have focused on a lot of green energy scams, and they're hurting a lot more than we are. So as much as we got to focus on getting these gas prices down, the reality is overseas they're feeling it far worse than we did because we've taken the steps to protect our energy economy.
What he's saying here is don't worry about your gas prices, folks. Right. They're doing worse. The foreigners are doing worse. So just feel better. And isn't that just the best condensation of the ethos? Hey, don't worry about that. We're taking all the money. Worry about your neighbor who's a different color than
getting
you.
more than you. Right.
Yeah.
The handouts
I also
they don't
just wanted
deserve.
to point out, Jet, this picture in the frame back here, that is a Joker drawing drawn by a famous comic book writer and artist, Walt Simonson. That's what that is. He's confused. But yeah, and I think this, to end this segment, is the best response that I've seen so far, coming from Ted Lieu. It says, undocumented immigrants voting in elections is an infinitesimal problem. To vote, you have to first register. How many undocumented people are going to go, yes, I'm going to give all my info to the government that's trying to maybe deport me? No way. This is a problem that doesn't even exist. Trying to, first Democrat I've seen have any kind of counter messaging to the immigration debate. Because remember, Kamala Harris, we're going to deport more people than Donald Trump. We're going to build a higher wall.
Yeah, there's no unity on the left about immigration if you're going to include liberals on the left. There's still this kind of quintessentially American value that we're not into giving handouts to people who don't deserve them. And by don't deserve them, I mean fit the criteria of usually the narcissistic qualities that constitute our worldview, whether or not someone looks, acts, or talks like you do, or is from the same part of the country as you. A lot of people wouldn't have problems with benefits going to their neighbors or their coworkers or whatever, but if it goes to another part of the country, then everyone gets resentful. he's a bad guy, man. JD Vance. I don't think he understands how his involvement in Trump 2.0 is going to haunt him. But we'll see. Time will tell.
We shall see. This is another thing that I played on the show yesterday that I really wanted to get your perspective on, because you do talk about this a lot. These are two tech billionaires. One of them is Mark Andreessen, and we'll get to Peter Thiel in a second. But this guy is an interviewer, and he has read the autobiographies of tons and tons of CEOs, over 400 he mentions. Wow. And he's talking about introspection, self-reflection, right? Self-awareness. And this is how Mark Andreessen talks about that.
You don't have any levels of introspection.
Yes, zero, as little as possible.
Why?
Move forward, go. Yeah, I don't know. I found people who dwell in the past get stuck in the past. It's a real problem, and it's a problem at work, and it's a problem at home.
So I've read obviously 400, and I think now 10 biographies of history-based entrepreneurs, and that was one of the most surprising things. Like, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned from this? So like, oh, they have little or zero introspection. Yeah. Like Sam Walton didn't wake up thinking about his internal self. He just woke up, was like, I like building Walmart. I'm going to keep building Walmart. I'm going to make more Walmarts, and just kept doing it over and over again.
And you probably know, if you go back, like, 400 years ago, it never would have occurred to anybody to be introspective. Like, it's the whole idea of, I mean, just all of the modern conceptions around introspection and therapy and all the things that kind of result from that are, kind of manufactured in the 1910s, 1920s.
Say more about that.
Great men of history didn't sit around doing this stuff at any prior point, right? It's all a new construct. It was
Wow.
The first Western civilization had to kind of invent the concept of the individual, right, which was like a new concept, several hundred years ago. And then, for a long time, it was, all right, the individual runs, right, and like does all these things and builds things and builds empires and builds companies and builds technology, does all these things. And then, kind of this kind of guilt-based whammy, kind of showed up from Europe, a lot of it from Vienna, 1910s, 1920s, Freud, and all that entire movement, and kind of turned all that inward and basically said, okay, now we need to basically second guess the individual. We need to criticize the individual. The individual needs to self-criticize, right? The individual needs to feel guilt. Needs to look backwards. Needs to dwell on the past. It never resonated with me.
So.
Okay, so all right, so I'll be as objective as possible. I understand the living in the past problem he's talking about, but it's not an all or nothing deal. And these guys are very obsessive people. They're obsessed competitors is basically the best way to define them psychologically. So it's not a surprise to me that he thinks there is an inherent problem with spending time thinking about the past, but yeah, that's the mind of a sociopath. That's how a sociopath thinks about just getting more of what I want at the expense of others. I don't care. Because if you sat still and meditated, and then you listen to some people who aren't afraid of you, because when you get to successful positions, people become afraid of you, then you might actually reflect on your power, your ability to influence the world. Great example, Sam Walton. Did Sam Walton necessarily know the damage, the long-term damage that he was causing at the time? Probably not. But his kids sure did.
Yeah.
And their kids sure did. And they're going to have to make peace with their privilege and say, how am I going to give back to society other than just living off of the returns?
Or they won't.
Usually it's angel investing. Usually these big heirs, they have family offices and they just hear pitches all the time about small business opportunities that they invest in. But that's not really fueling the economy. That it's not real.
And it's also interesting, one, the way he fucking sniffs all the time is goddamn annoying. But two, the way he brought up guilt at the end, that's revealing. That he doesn't want to feel guilt. He doesn't want to feel doubt about what he's doing. He just wants to make the number go up. Fuck everybody else. I want to get mine. Right. The end. And if I think about it too much, I might think, oh, I might be hurting some people. I might be putting people out of jobs. I might be fucking over people that I don't know. And then where do they go? Well, I don't know them. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Keep going. Line go up. And
it might be insightful that he uses the word guilt there because maybe everybody does at least some self-reflection every week. At some point they get confronted by something or someone says something that forces them to reflect on a decision that they made, whether it be recently or a long time ago. And that lasts for, like, with that guy, maybe a second or two or three.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I don't want to feel guilty, so move back into the next task. When you're that successful, there's always more to do. There's always more to read. There's always more people to meet. There's always more relationships to nurture, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think on the progressive left, again, because of something I said earlier, because of our lack of familiarity with power, we don't necessarily empathize in like a useful way with those in positions of power.
Yeah.
And ultimately the test is, and I've been doing a lot of research on Obama for these upcoming essays that I've been working on, I'm going to film hopefully Friday, is that no one's really providing the context for judgment when you're talking politics. You know, no one's setting up the stage so you can see the action the way it meant to be seen in an objective way.
Right.
Like, that's why I, first off, like, I know exactly why he thinks this way. This guy is a super competitor, and you can't be a super competitor, have a ton of success, not have a therapist, and not end up a sociopath.
Yeah.
If you don't get a therapist, if you don't find some sort of spirituality when you get to, I would say, $100 million at least of net worth, then you're going to get fucked up. I don't care who you are. It will fuck with you.
Yeah.
It will fuck with you. You expect everyone to accommodate you. It's called entitlement.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know about it is because I was educated in a way that said, you're not fucking special. You can be special if you want to be, but you got to work for it. You got to work for that exceptionalism. And there's not,
Yes.
that's another thing on the progressive left. I don't want us to let go of, like, the individuals in our side, in our progressive community that want to lead. Let's make sure, like Kat, for example, I would have coached her a little bit more on how to embrace the culture of competition. She even said in that speech, it's a little bit like a sports team. And it's like, well, as that Jamal Bowman, Rashida Tlaib, and the point that you made about them endorsing late, like that was, come on.
Endorse early. Endorse early. Talk to the other candidates. Say, hey,
or if you
just drop out, join me.
Or if you get them live, no, it's fine. If you get them live, then talk policies, talk about the coalition, talk about people coming together. We got to unite the left to defeat the right. It's not about uniting the country anymore. Those kinds of things. Get past the fucking vibes bullshit of, oh, it's so fun to be on camera with you. Come on.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it would have made the difference. I'm not saying it would have made the difference. But it's just, we have to, as competitors, if you are a true competitor, you must learn from not only your mistakes, but the mistakes of your peers. So anybody out there that's thinking about running for office, take a good hard look at the way Kat ran her campaign and take the good, but leave the bad, because there was some bad here.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you were saying before, about there's always something to do if you're that successful. If you're
right.
I will say, even at my level where I am, boy, I am broke as fuck, but I am trying to build something here with my YouTube channel, my Twitch. I could stream every single day. I could make videos multiple times a day. Because the reaction shit is the easiest shit. So I can react to every fucking album I could think of and just put slop out there and just make it. But I'm thinking about, I want to spend time with my wife. I want to spend time with my friends. I want to go do this. I have work to do. I have other things to do, other responsibilities, and I don't want to shirk all of them or, say, deal with it, wife. I'm making content now. I'm going to, and I've seen too many YouTubers talk about falling out of relationships because they focus too much on the YouTube. Now, look, I want to be successful at YouTube, but I do not want to do it at the detriment of my relationships, be it my wife or my friends. And I don't want to hurt other people. And that's maybe I'm not winning. I'm not grind set enough to be successful.
Well,
at this.
I mean, there's also just the reality of growing popularity on the internet. What you need is your very first viral video or clip or whatever, and that gives you up to 10,000 subscribers, and then once you're at 10,000, then you're off and running. It's just a function of effort at that point. And you will grow if you continue to do your work. For me, it's almost like an artistic approach where I just care about putting up everything I know so that others can win arguments for conservatism and arguments for neoliberalism.
Right.
You have to defeat these arguments.
And you're putting them out.
And they're not hard to defeat if you just know the fundamentals.
Yeah.
If you just know the recent history, if you know American history for the last 100 years, especially if you know the last 45 years in detail, but if you know your history and then you know the basics of economics, and then what really helps is some knowledge about social psychology, things like conformity that are really bad on the right, then you can really formulate, you can figure out what you're dealing with, how intellectually accessible people are, right? And the one of the tests that I ask people if I feel the subject of politics coming on is, do you think America is a meritocracy? And you'd be surprised as to how many people say yes. And I mean, it's just right there. If they say yes, then don't even waste your time.
Yeah.
Like, don't even waste your time. There are certain questions you can ask to figure out what you're dealing with. And remember, the MAGA people are in a cult. The neoliberals are ignorant. It's just their ignorance pales in comparison to that of conservatives, so we don't think of them as ignorant people, but they are. Hillary Clinton should not have been the nominee in 2016. It actually shouldn't have even been Bernie Sanders. It should have been Liz Warren, because Bernie Sanders tried to convince Liz Warren to run for office that year.
Yeah.
She said, go up against Hillary. Hillary's basing the whole premise of Hillary's existence is that she was married to a president.
Right.
Okay? So that means that she's dragging his policies with her into the next century. And
everywhere she goes.
And if you actually studied those policies, you'd recognize that Clinton killed the Democratic Party. He killed the party of FDR. Pep Talks talks about like Citizens United being the catalyst that screwed everything up. No. You got to go back to Clinton. You got to get into NAFTA. You got to get into the crime bill. You got to get into telecom. You got to get into welfare. And you got to get into Glass-Steagall. And you got to know about those things if you don't know about those things. And that's the thing that I hate about content creators who just get up and, talk about the most superficial shit, whether it be race or religion or what they said back in 7th grade, wrote in an article, like reasons to hate people, right?
Yeah.
Like, instead of doing that, like, you can build up competence in people's argumentative skills. So my whole thing is, like, if and when I do go viral for something, I get lucky, there's going to be my nice library of, like, it's going to be hopefully 30 essays by the end of the year, maybe more, that's right there ready to go, and people can just click on it and, like, be like, okay, I want to learn about this or want to learn about that.
Yeah. And that's a very useful thing that you're putting out there. Again, folks, go follow Deter McBizness on American Wasp.
Yeah, please check out my essays if you haven't already. So this is cool. I was in federal government as a civil servant under Clinton. Wow, it's interesting. You should come on as a guest, Wanda.
Yeah,
I'd be fascinated by that. But
yeah, to finish out this segment about introspection, here's an example of someone who maybe should have done a little more introspection. Because again, these people think they're geniuses. I'm not going to play the Peter Thiel thing because he goes into it's just a but
you're underwater. Your mic sucks. There you go. Now you're good.
Mark Zuckerberg is shutting down the metaverse, the VR metaverse that he tried to build, because Roblox already exists, Fortnite already exists. Nobody cares about your stupid Facebook 3D fucking world, and nobody wants to give their information to you, Zuckerberg. You're a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another person who doesn't do enough introspection, Cenk Uygur. This is a clip.
He's a narcissist, a really bad.
Hank, shout out winners and losers in the chat here. They're literally competing to see who can harvest the most poverty. Wealth is just the scoreboard of other people's deprivation. That is very true. And here's Cenk trying to, again, consolidate his audience, trying to spread his audience to the right because there's money over there and he wants that money. And he's also realizing that the people on the left are leaving him.
It's amazing to me how much this guy overestimates his value.
Yeah.
Corey Brown writes in, pretty sure I read in Raw Story months ago that it was concerning that a J6 ultra right-wing conspiracy peddling nutjob was being put in charge of counterterrorism. This is getting hard to watch. Hey, Corey, if you are in favor of attacking people who are against this war and who are pointing out how Israel is controlling our government because some left-wing outlet or host or whoever told you should hate the right wing even if they're on our side on the war, bye, Felicia. Like, so all the people who told me about, marginalized communities and how they wanted to protect them, Muslims are getting slaughtered everywhere. And then a couple of people step up to help, Tom Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson. And some on the left are like, oh, how dare you? Muslim lives aren't that important. This war isn't that important. My partisanship is more important. All right, well, if that's how you feel, that's all right. There's a lot of other shows for you. They don't care at all what happens in the war, what happens with Israel, as long as they can smear anyone that they want to on the right or the left. Anyways.
So this was, again, posted by Hank Thompson, retweeted by Francesca, who says, Brother Cenk, it was me in 2003 protesting the Iraq war. Weren't you a Republican doing celebrity upskirts commentary? You know what you said? You laughed in my face about there being gulags and then claimed I was using vulnerable people as a human shield. Take the L. Take the L. People are not criticizing Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene for being against the war. They're not criticizing them for that. They're criticizing them for being anti-Semitic fucking bigots.
Right.
That's what they're criticizing for.
Right.
Okay. I mean, take it.
Yeah, so I mean, Cenk is a sad story. I mean, talk about a guy who needs a therapist, or if he's got a therapist, he should fire that therapist and get a replacement. I mean, there's something, Stephen Colbert says anything involving a camera is going to involve some sort of narcissistic tendency in the person in front of it. So imagine having this kind of career on the scale that he's had it for as long as he's had it. And I think Anna's guilty of this too. They're all, it's narcissism where it's like, we're the only ones saying these things. We're the only ones saying these things. And we said them first. So you guys should all line up behind us and do it our way and say what we think you should say. Yeah, it's sad. It's good to see. I'd like, the network, the brand that we really need to push towards the progressive left is the Midas Touch Network. Yeah. That's really that and Indivisible. If we could push them further left between now and 2028, man, we could maybe get some really big things done.
That'd be great.
But so far, they're the type of voters that are still like caught up on vibes and like
caught up on vibes and they're caught up on what's the word? Not performative. Civility politics. Right. And I wanted to point out a couple people using their voices, their platforms, to eschew that shit. It's woke 2.0. We don't give a fuck about that civility bullshit. Here's something funny that happened at the Oscars here. Jeremy O. Harris, who is a playwright, drunkenly called OpenAI's Sam Altman a Nazi at the Vanity Fair Oscar party. Based, right? Fucking dope. When asked about his comments, he said he called him the Joseph Goebbels of the Trump administration. But on Tuesday, Harris, whose play scored a record-hitting 12 Tony nominations in 2020, called this email, "It was late. I had a few too many martinis, so I misspoke when I said Goebbels. I should have said Frederick Flick." And I wanted to ask you, who's Frederick Flick? But I also love that he just doubled. He's like, yeah, he's a fucking Nazi. I just got which one confused.
Yeah.
So who's Frederick Flick?
If Frederick Flick was a big personality in the Nuremberg trials, I'm checking right now. Yeah, he was an industrialist, convicted as a Nazi war criminal, and he reconstituted his business becoming the richest person in West Germany and one of the richest people in the world at the time of his death in 1972. Flick was the patriarch and founder of the Flick family.
Yeah. Never again.
He was able to survive those being convicted a war criminal, though, and go on to be super rich in Germany.
Yeah. So let's make sure that our generation's Frederick Flick does not get to continue on past these Nuremberg trials. This is someone else using their platform. I appreciate this because, one, I love Dan Soder. This is the comedian who's talking to John Oliver here. But and he's a great voice, and his wife is a ESPN analyst, and I think she'd be. Both of their voices need to be bigger because comedy needs some left-wing voices pushing back against the Rogan verse and all that. And sports, we talk about how many times sports need some left-wing voices. But here he is talking to John Oliver, and I think John Oliver's approach to this is fucking great.
Was there ever something that you were working on that you went, this might be too dangerous?
Too dangerous?
Yeah, because sometimes you go into big shit where I feel like you're investigating in a way that does uncover some stuff that probably pisses people off.
Sure. Can't care about that, though. I genuinely, to my bones, don't care. I don't have a physical reaction to it. Like when we were doing one of the pieces on the Sackler family, I think at one point they called up demanding to come into the office. Like, no, you can talk to our researcher on the record.
That's so funny. And that the Sackler family thought they could come in and talk to you.
What was more chilling is you realize that was their move. It's like, we go into the building. Well, you're not coming to the building. You can talk to our researcher on the record. You can do that. But no, there's a process here, and it doesn't. If you think this is going to be a charm offensive, please let me save you a trip.
I love that they thought they were going to come in there and go, how you doing? Have you ever been to our wing in the museum?
Exactly.
Come take a look at it, and you go, you started the opiate epidemic. That's right. Like, you created OxyContin and ruined most of the Rust Belt in America.
Also, there's the amount of Sacklers who, in the research of that, people say, we're on a different side of the family. Went, different side of the family? How?
But just that approach of, Matt and Trey from South Park have the approach of we're expecting to get canceled after episode 1. Like every season that we are renewed is a surprise to us. John Oliver has that approach. He got some clout from being on The Daily Show, got his own show, and said, I'm going to do everything I can with the platform that I have to push people into action. He has a call to action in every episode. Whatever he's talking about, he has some way that the viewers can get involved and to make change. He will talk about stories that no other news channel is talking about, mostly because they advertise for them.
Right.
It is remarkable what he's been able to get away with at HBO. Let's see how long he lasts after this Paramount merger. We don't know.
Now that the Ellisons own the HBO.
Like we're talking about in the beginning with Kat, run to show everybody else how it's supposed to be fucking done. And if you win, you win. Great. That's that's the goal. But if, like John Oliver, if you keep going for seasons, that's the goal. Great. If you get canceled, at least you change the conversation. You changed how people expect his is comedy news, but you expect that material to be delivered to you. Because going back and watching, going from his show to trying to watch The Daily Show or Trevor Noah or even Jon Stewart, it doesn't hit the same because it's just we're making fun of the aesthetics of the news. We're making fun of the aesthetics of politics. We're not making systemic critiques and telling you, the audience, how you can solve the problem, how you can get involved. To quote Jake, what you can do to take action and change the status quo that we're currently suffering.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you guys for watching and hope you're enjoying this space. Please like, share, and subscribe to both me and Alex. We could really use the support. And looks like we did well with getting the numbers back up while we're on here, as usual. So hopefully Lumen can enjoy those nice 20s. Please stick around for Lumen. He's the man. Very sharp guy. Respect the hell out of him. And until next time, please don't forget that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
Fuck yeah, dude. Check out